No, okay.
No,
Okay.
those are
Dennis
yours.
said it's kidneys.
No, that's mine.
No,
I'm not sharing.
No,
I'll share.
Kidneys do kidneys. Would you help me with that?
He probably just wants to save it for later in case he needs it.
We're ready to go.
Yeah. Yep, already.
Okay. Welcome to the Oregon City Council regular meeting for May 9th, 2022. The time now is 7:11, and we will open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I stress.
Ms. Evans, you take a roll call, council, please.
Mr. Davitt.
Here.
Mr. Drake. Mr. Horniak.
Here.
Mrs. Pavlov.
Here.
Mr. Reeves.
Here.
Mr. Wallensack.
Here.
Mr. Zale.
Here. And council, Mr. Drake had informed me that he is out of town and unable to attend this meeting. Can I get a motion to excuse Mr. Drake from tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wallensack?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Horniak. Thank you. Any objections, council? Mr. Drake is excused from tonight's meeting. Council, we will need to approve the meeting minutes from April 25th, 2022, the regular meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. President,
Mr. Reeves,
I move to approve the minutes from April 25th, 2022's regular council meeting as presented.
thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Horniak. Thank you, Mr. Horniak. Meeting minutes from April 25th, 2022 have been approved. Also present at tonight's meeting, is Mayor Michael Safarian, City Administrator Michael Beasley, Clerk of Council Tina Evans, Law Director Melissa Papura, Public Service Director Paul Roman, Fire Chief Dennis Hartman, and Finance Director Darlene Huntermark. Council, since we did not have a committee of the whole meeting last week, we will need to add items.
Adding one more.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're adding one more, 93.
Yeah, 92.
We need to add items 92, 2022, and items 93, 2022 to this week's agenda. Can I get a motion to add those items, council?
So move, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish. Thank you, Mr. Davish. Council, are there any objections? Hearing no objections, items 92 and 93 will be added to this week's agenda. And for the first item, 92, 2022, which is presented by Mayor Michael Safarian and Finance Director Darlene Huntermark, I will defer to Darlene Huntermark.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a federal grant that we apply for every year. It's for bulletproof vests for our police department. It's a reimbursement.
In here.
Caroline, you get to speak into this.
Soft today.
We replace the vests every 5 years, and it's a federal grant for these bulletproof vests for the police department.
Thank you, Ms. Huntermark. Just a question, how many are we actually replacing this year?
Well, we have to submit the application. We have a list from police. It looks like we'll probably be able to get 9, but we won't know until we submit that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Huntermark. Counselor, are there any questions for Ms. Huntermark? Hearing none, I will assign item 92, 2022 as ordinance 92, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read it into the record.
Authorizing the mayor and finance director to apply for and to accept a grant from the 2022 Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Partnership Program and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Ms. Paula.
I move for passage of ordinance 92 of 2022
Thank you, Ms. Paula.
as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Ms. Paula.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wallensack. Thank you, Mr. Wallensack. Ms. Hunter, I'm sorry. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call of council, please?
Mrs. Pavlov.
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack.
Yes.
Mr. Davish.
Yes.
Mr. Horniak.
Yes.
Mr. Reeves.
Yes.
Mr. Zale.
Yes. Thank you, council. Ordinance 92, 2022 passes with 7 yeas and 0 nays. The next item up for consideration is item 92, 2022, or 93, 2022. And I will defer to Mr. Beasley on this one.
Mr. President and members, and Melissa might join in as well. The city of Oregon has a permitting process for peddlers. I think I talked to at least one member of council today that said, one of them nodding his head at the far end saying, boy, I just so not have any peddlers come into town. So would we. The law, however, requires that we just can't ban them. We can't have a reasonable framework for regulation. The process of checking for records, and I think we have also used COVID, so we haven't really permitted them for the last 2 years. We've given out no permits. We can't really use that as a reason anymore. That has moved on, and Sandy wishes we could use it forever. The process of doing record checks has changed. It used to be we do it to our own place, but now we've got to do the kind of the national record checks through the FBI. If we're telling people this person has had a record check and they've got a serious crime in Michigan or Pennsylvania, our record just doesn't tell that. So this would provide to increase the fee to cover those costs and allow us to stay within a rational regulatory framework. Again, our bias would be to like to have no peddlers, but this is where we are, and a reasonable framework. We do emphasize to our residents that just because they have a permit doesn't mean the city's not endorsing what they're doing. They have the right to go door to door. And also, so folks understand, we do not and cannot regulate people going door to door for religious or political purposes. So people always have that right, and there's nothing we do in our framework that regulates that, so folks know.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Council, any questions for Mr. Beasley on this item?
Mr. President.
Or Mayor Safran?
Council, you remember a few years back when we put together those no solicitor stickers that we had. We actually slowly dispersed most of those that we purchased. However, sometimes time wears those out. We thought that we could distribute them through our water billing process, but the way the bills are put together and dispersed and sent out, it's not possible to add those to a bill, the water bill. Other ways we tried, but today we thought we may get more of those, and we could have them distributed with the Metro presses just like some of you may have used the Metro press to distribute your political information to people's houses. We thought that would be a cost-effective way. Although the city cannot regulate who doesn't come on your porch, you can. And that's one way. If we had every household have those on there, we could, in essence, eliminate solicitors from our neighborhood. If they're not allowed to come on any porch, if we got 80% of the city to have them, I find it hard to believe that people would want to send people out through the whole neighborhood to find that couple percent that's still left out there. So we may make a conscious effort to redistribute some of those and re-advise. Hopefully we could depend on the Metro and some news media to get that word out there. But we do actually believe that does work. It's just a matter of the people understanding how simple it is. So that's something we'll do, because if you are here when they come in, and then especially the ones that renegotiate electrical and gas rates and they get confused, they do it, then we end up with them back here for us to get them out of it. It really causes quite an enormous extra work for our staff here just to get people out of those contracts they sign when they find out they really don't save money. And that $50 or $100 gift card they give them to switch costs them way more than the $50 or $100. So we couldn't get this legislation put together fast enough to get it out there. And anything we can do to try to avoid problems for the residents is what we're trying to achieve with this.
Thank you, Mayor. How did we put those out before? And do we have any idea how many we actually got out there?
You know, I forgot Sandy was gonna check and see how many we ordered. We know how many we have left, so we, before the week's up, we'll know what that number is. I can't answer that accurately.
I know I had some, but how did we put those out before?
We were distributing them here. We had advertisements. People would come get them. Yeah, we put them in
Okay.
the tax office. We put them in every office here where people would visit. The water billing department, we put them up here in front of Kelly's window, anywhere here. We, like this, Beasley said, that the senior center had them. Several places we did put them up. So we didn't have a real effective way, and I don't know why we didn't think of distributing them in the Metro paper. It just popped in my head today. So that's something we will certainly entertain that as an option. And if we get them distributed by the Metro, we get a little article in there that kind of is descriptive too, or else we'll send them out with a flyer. We think we can have some really success at getting the percentage of the city to have them to increase. People just don't know what they are.
Thank you.
Or how easy it is to get that person off report.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, any comments or questions regarding item 93, 2022? Hearing none, I will assign item 93, 2022 as ordinance 93, 2022, and ask Ms. Evans to read in the record.
Repealing ordinance 68 of 2020 and amending chapter 729 of the Oregon Municipal Code titled Peddlers and Solicitors and declaring an emergency.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I move for passes of ordinance 93 of 2022 as an emergency measure.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Ms. Evans, would you take a roll call vote of council, please?
Mr. Davish?
Yes.
Mrs. Pauloff?
Yes.
Mr. Horniak?
Yes.
Mr. Reeves?
Yes.
Mr. Wallensack? Mr. Zale?
Yes.
You have to leave.
Yeah, leave.
Thank you, council. Ordinance 93, 2022 passes with 5 yeas and 0 nays. Council, that concludes all items for tonight's consideration.
Mr. President, I did want to add one other thing with that
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
solicitation things. And when the people come in to apply for the solicitation rights or the permit, we do advise them of if they are caught soliciting when those stickers are present and somebody calls and complains, that we will revoke their permit. So they are made aware of that and the rules that that people have, or the regulations that the rights they have if they post something like that they're taken serious. So they do have the ability to be effective.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, concluding the items for consideration, we will now move to the mayor's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Council, I think you've seen the correspondence sent to you, and this is of a retirement resignation, that of Kevin Schmenk, who announces his resignation for retirement would be effective July 5th, 2022. And I would ask council's concurrence in the acceptance of Kevin Schmenk's retirement letter. Like I said, once again, date or making July 5th, 2022 his last day.
Council,
Mr. President,
Mr. Davish.
I would like to concur with the mayor of the retirement of Kevin Schmink effective July 5th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Davish.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pauloff. Thank you, Ms. Pauloff. Council, are there any objections? Hearing none, Mayor, council does concur with honoring the retirement of Kevin Schmink.
Just for the record, Kevin, I actually seen today for quite a while, and he was using vacation time till then, so he's really kind of retired now. I wish Kevin the best.
Thank you.
That does conclude my report.
Mr. Beasley.
Mr. President and members, obviously, I did call, I talked to the mayor at length today and most of our department heads, and I talked to all the council members. I've had an amazing 12-year run here, and we're not saying goodbye today, but I do want to say it's time we're going to start working together on a transition and figuring out something that makes sense for us as we go. I think there's actually a rule in our charter, you can't be 68 years old and still be city administrator. No, it's not in the charter. I'm working toward a life stage where I'm going to try and work part-time on some things and have some more chances to do some things with grandkids and et cetera. But I want to make sure council knows and the mayor does know, and I think you all do, that I'm not going to disappear. I want to keep working on the things that are important to Oregon, and if there's a way for us to do that in a structured way together, I'd like to do that. But let's do what works for Oregon going forward, and we want to go through a process and find the folks that are the right way for us to move forward together. We have so much going on here, and there's things that it's going to be a great. Again, the next few years, there's gonna be so much happening going vertical. It's gonna be exciting to watch it. So now it's not a night for goodbyes or anything. Don't worry about that. It's time for us to make the record, and I do expect to kind of move forward, working on kind of an effort to help make sure we do what we can to bring in federal and state dollars to our region. And I want to help with all the communities we can to do that. And that's kind of what I'll be working on a part-time basis, but I'll have time to do other things, and I'm excited about that going forward. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Ms. Purpura.
No report, Mr. President.
Mr. President, just want to chime in on
Mr.
one of
Mayor.
the things that after Mr. Beasley said that, of course, it was only he and I were in my living room when I coerced him to consider coming here. And after some discussion and a few days went by, he said, I think I'm gonna take you up on that offer, and I'll give you maybe 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And 4 or 5 years
Just
turned
4.
into a little under
4.
13. Yeah, and so I was very pleasantly enjoyed that time, and maybe I could coerce a few other months out of him here or there into another 6 or 7 years. But I do. It's hard to hold someone back, especially when you have grandkids and stuff, and that they grow up pretty fast. I know mine do, and anybody who chooses to spend a little more time with their family, you got to hand them that. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Roman.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Mr. Reeves.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves. Mr. Davish.
No report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Davish. Ms. Puloff.
Thank you, Mr. President. This year, National Police Week is 2022 is May 15th through the 21st. So I was wondering if we could have the ballards on Navarre Avenue in blue for this coming week?
Yeah, and we are going to do that. Mr. Zale had asked just the other day about that as well, and I know Rodney was going to try to switch it today.
Should be today.
Hopefully, yeah. So
Yeah.
it'll work.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roman.
Okay, also too, I know he said it's not a time for goodbyes and stuff like that, but the transition's gonna be a real difficult one because I really want to say this. Mr. Beasley has taken a beating in Oregon. You love him or you hate him. And a lot of people will sit there and say things like, oh, he's just selling out Oregon to Lucas County, and all these words come across like that. But they come from people that have not worked with him face to face, hand in hand. And I don't think they realize all the wonderful things that he has really done for this community. So it's going to be a long, hard process to find somebody of his caliber to fill those shoes. And I just wanted to say that. So it's sad to hear that he's moving on, and 12 years is a long time. but I really do think that he has been an incredible asset to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Mr. Horniak.
Briefly from the Economic Development Committee, just wanted to update. So there was the first foundation meeting of the year. With COVID, it's made it tough, and we were able to introduce both Alec Thompson as well as Heidi Coughlin as the newest members to the OEDF team. So it was exciting to have that. With Mr. Beasley, we'll say goodbyes for, see you laters down the road, but always appreciated everything as well. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Horniak. And I have nothing from my standing committee, but I would have to also echo a few things that were said about Mr. Beasley. Mike, you've been a great mentor. We're going to miss you. I know that's premature, but you're appreciated here. That's all I have. And council, we have no further business or anybody signed in to speak before council, so I would seek a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. Reeves.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davish.
That's fine.
Council, are there any objections? With no objections, council, we have adjourned.
We forgot to remind people of Sunday.
Oh, you have to,
crap.
you